on Robert. And our special guest for today is the CIO of ACH Group. He's a senior executive with significant technology, business operations, and program delivery experience gained in both government and private sector organizations, including banking, wealth, healthcare, and education. He was also on episode 29 of the Pioneers in Aged Care podcast. So if you're interested in hearing about his aged care journey, I put the link in the link to the episode in the comments below. But without further ado, let's raise the roof for Craig Carter. Whoop, whoop.
Come on down, Craig. Welcome to the show on this Friday afternoon. And you're calling in from the great city of Adelaide. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I was just down there the other week, but so a lot of innovation happening down there, and I wanted to, a lot of the audience is focused on November 1st and what's happening. But given that we've had a bit of a run with some technology and ARIA last week with Ruben, wanted to go more into the sort of outlook in AI and technology side of the equation, and we can also link it to some of the new standards and reform that I'm sure you're supporting and thinking about every day. But I wanted to start with some outlook questions that you say with your role, because you've from your background, you've been a CIO now of the ACH Group for about 7 years, and before that you've had a nice history with technology. But could you describe the current state of technology in aged care, and as we head into 2026?
I'm not sure there's a simple answer to that, to be honest.
There probably isn't. Yeah.
The state of aged care, state of technology rather in aged care, I think it depends on the provider and the size of the provider and the appetite of the provider. So I think it's a sliding scale. We do have a lot of organizations who are yet to embrace fully the advantages of technology, I think is probably the polite way of saying it. And then we've got some real leaders in the sector, and we've got some people, a number of organizations doing really cool things and trying to push the whole sector forward, which I think is great. And we should admire what they're doing and aspire to be like them, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I think our sector has so much potential for, is that, we are operating to the same, requirements, legislation, regulations as, 700 other businesses or providers out there. But there's so much variation. I'm sure you see it on the tech stack on that front. But I'm quite curious, though, as a CIO of a group, because my history working with a lot of 20 years ago with the industry, most of the stakeholders for buying engagements and data and other aspects really came to the CFO and CEOs. But certainly, back then I saw a lot more of the CTOs, CIOs that would report through a CFO, because they were treated as purely a cost center, but not really connected with the strategy side. And that's certainly changed. But what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that your contemporaries or the CIOs face in this new aged care reforms world, as well as just the technology that we've, like you noted, we are seeing a lot more projects internally that are pretty impressive. But I can imagine that's also bringing gentlemen like yourself and other individuals, really to the end of their, the extent of a lot of their capabilities. I mean, they've been pretty impressive what you see there. But I just want to explore a little bit more of the challenges with the new reforms in the Act as we roll forward.
I think the current challenges with the reform and the Act is that we're still finding out the detail, and it's very late. So we're only just over a week away, and the rules, the next version of the rules was released at the end of last week, and that's not enough time to make the changes, interpret the changes, implement the changes, test the changes, roll out the changes, train the staff. But we'll do what we can, and that's what everybody in the sector is doing. We're making sure we're as good as we can be. But there will be issues. I mean, we just got to be realistic about this. There will be issues. It's impossible. I don't believe any provider who says that we are 100% ready. I just don't believe it, because it's impossible to be 100% ready. And I don't believe any vendors who tell me they're 100% ready either. It's impossible to be 100% ready. You can be confident that you're covering the main aspects. and you can be confident that you will react quickly to whatever eventuates. And I think that's the best state we can put ourselves in at the moment. I think it's going to be interesting times for everybody in the aged care sector from 1st of November onwards, and probably will take, could be 6 months, could be longer, whilst we adjust to the new world and what exactly that is and what it means.
Yep. No, it's very true. And I know, as a vendor myself and Mirus, I mean, it is a reaction. It's, I mean, focused on the industry. We know what's occurring, but what you're building for. But the fact, like even in some instances, we've had APIs just change and abandon that and move over to this one. And I think from the vendor's perspective, there's not money or grants or anything above and beyond the current client contracts to really account for this, whereas that's been the challenge on our side. So certainly I do sympathize with some of the challenge with the vendors, but there's been also some other behaviors we'll probably unpack a little bit later that's coming. But I guess as you think about that overarching digital strategy, and what's going on, I'd love to share some of your examples too at ACH Group and some of that innovation. But how do you balance innovation with that operational reality in aged care? Because it's very difficult where innovation and kind of compliance and risk kind of like sit so close together, because one sort of stifles the other. That's why strategy guys usually live in different parts of an organization than the accountants and the compliance side of it. But how do you balance that at ACH, and I guess also in this sector, because it is quite unique?
I think actually they're very closely linked. So I mean the important thing, and even going back to the Act, the important thing is that we continue to deliver care. That's what we're about. That's our purpose. So individuals that need care need to be able to receive care, and if we're doing that, 90% of what we do is taken care of, right? So we'll be fine as long as we're giving care. We can work out all the rest. We can work out the rules. We can work out the funding, as long as we're delivering care when it's needed. If you think about innovation, it depends how you do innovation and what drives your innovation. So for us, it's been very much around how we do what we do better. So what are the opportunities? What are the roadblocks? What are the issues and challenges which we experience? What do our care participants tell us around what their experience is like, and the things that they like and then the things they don't like, and what is the opportunity for us to I suppose to make that better, and how we make that better is where the innovation comes in. So we always start with a problem. We don't start with the solution. We don't start with using technology for technology's sake. It isn't about us two, it's about what are we trying to do? Because unless you know that, how can you demonstrate the return on investment or the step change that you've delivered or transformation that you have made?
Yep. No, that's great feedback, because I mean I see a lot of that too, and I think what's very important in there, and it's also I think core to what the industry does need to do, which is I heard that you're also co-designing requirements with your participants, with your consumers, with the residents, and really looking at it through multiple lenses of not just even the staff and that operational process and efficiency gains. It's also the end consumer or resident who you're delivering that ultimately. And I actually haven't heard that brought up too often. I mean, I think some groups note that, but a lot of the co-design is really more about how the staff then can deliver and focus on that. I think that's where most of I hear vendors that are looking at that, but it's a very important point that you called out. I think it was weird alignment.
You mentioned earlier about alignment, and I think that's a really good indicator in terms of the organization and where the organization is going. So I think if you've got a C-suite person responsible for technology, as opposed to it's a portfolio tucked under a different executive, I think that demonstrates that the organization takes technology seriously and is embracing technology and the opportunities that brings. Now, you need a professional to do that, to be perfectly honest, and you need people who can protect you from the hype of technology, because it's very easy to be swayed by the sales, right? It's easy to buy a product and then be disappointed. So you actually need somebody who's who can ask that killer question, why would I need this? Convince me. And that doesn't happen a lot, to be honest. I think we do, that's also important around that co-creation, because if you innovate with people as opposed to people, you find out what the issues are, you find out what the opportunities are, and then you can work through the solutions. And it's also really, really worthwhile just seeing if the solution is already in existence, right? So you don't need to do everything from scratch. We're in an industry where we share a lot of information, we share a lot of, we collaborate a lot in terms of our thoughts and aspirations and kind of design and ideas. And if someone's cracked it, then we kind of share that information. And so we kind of build on each other. We stand on each other's shoulders to try and move the whole industry forward. And that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about the aged care industry is that opportunity. I think I've described it before as a blank canvas, and it is a blank canvas, right? We can do whatever we want to do. We just need to understand why we're doing it.
And it's so important too, because the government wants that from the industry. They want us to be innovative, create new revenue streams, new ways that we can, rely on other sources of income than the government taxpayer funded care entitlements, which, ANAC and the requirement of care time now has been, really the accountability of that expenditure, back to the taxpayer, and also that transparency from the old, I guess, yesteryears of that front. But yesteryears also brings with it, some of, let's say, the yesteryears platforms. And I think you're as well as many others out there on the journey of moving from quote unquote, let's say, legacy applications and systems that you have, and moving that into really the next gen of those systems, with also ideally some integration for that. I guess what's been the hardest part of that transition for you in ACH? Because I know a lot of the CIOs, CTOs, execs, and even board members, they do comment, talk to us and look at that just to make sure, I guess, the things they're experiencing isn't unique to them as that snowflake, but sometimes a little bit of it is, as your previous statements about, you do need some professionals in this if you're going to take on a level of transformation that that a lot of businesses are today. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So we decided to do a platform play, and one of the reasons we did the platform play was to be in control of our own destiny. So we are not heavily reliant on particular vendors. I mean, we work with vendors, and we have a lot of accelerator products, because, as I said, if it's already been done, we may as well, no point starting from scratch and reinventing the wheel. But the innovation is how we get all of that orchestra to play the same song at the same time, right? And that's the innovation which we have. What we delivered, particularly in our home care business, is being fully digital end to end. So when you have control end to end of that journey, you can actually react very, very quickly to opportunities, changes, all the legislation changes that happen. We may not understand them all as yet, but what we do understand is how quickly we can make those changes to our platform. I think if you're reliant on a third party, a package solution, and particularly a legacy package solution, you are kind of beholden to the speed of their change. And that was never something that appealed to our organization, because historically that change has been very, very slow. And that's really why the aged care industry is probably where it is at the moment, is that we haven't been able to react as quickly as we should. And I think, I think there's two sides to that. I don't think the providers put enough pressure on, and I don't think the vendors were motivated or had reason to move quicker.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with that, and I think it's something that the vendors owe this industry. Show them what's coming. Have more feedback, more transparency about the roadmap and what's some of the features, because these are these are needed for the operations of this new environment, or the regulatory framework that we have. And I guess picking up some of notes of the system side and that interoperability. And I think what we're also talking about here is the data and the exchange of information between the systems. So when you rely on multiple silos to maybe give response to a complaint or have more understanding of somebody's risk. There's a lot of systems in the world today, and one of our clients, they have 52 applications that they've had to build, I think 88 different pipelines from into a data lake just to really interact with the data in a way that a platform play would really enable. But I think interoperability and the data side of it is something that is becoming more and more important, especially with the rise of AI. And we're getting AI questions already from some of the listeners that we'll touch in there. But I guess starting with the data side and taking that up, I mean, data governance, interoperability, it is playing and achieving some of the, I guess what we expect is the long-term sustainable events for our operations. But what role do you continue to see that data to play? And I guess if you could share some of the visions you have for ACH, and we can move into some of the AI discussion around that next as well.
Yeah. So I mean, data is critical to decision making, right? So all of our decisions are evidence based, and data underpins that evidence. So just kind of linking back to what I was saying earlier, the platform play is something which has enabled us to take advantage of that data because it's all in the same place. Some of the issues, when we do have data issues, it's generally because we're using an API to a legacy system, and for some reason it's not quite as straightforward. There's some throttling going on, or there's some issues around getting access to our data, and I think that's hindering progress, that's hindering innovation. But when we have access to the data ourselves, we don't have those barriers. So again, it's another reason why ACH Group has been able to take control, and I suppose do that co-creation is because, and that co-design, because we actually have the information to work out, well, what would happen if we did it differently, and how would that work? So I think there's great opportunities. I think you just have to be aware that the more packages that you have in play, the more connections that you're going to have to put in place, and the more silos of data, getting them all into the same place at the same time so you can actually use them is going to become a hindrance. And again, it's great hindsight. When we made the decision probably 5 or 6 years ago that we were going to make the platform play, that was really before the hype of AI. So, it served us really well. Whereas I think if we'd have made a package play or best of breed play for each particular line of business, we would be facing significant issues around getting that data in the same place so we can use it.
Absolutely. I mean, I profess to be more of a data guy than a software guy. I just see software as a way to grab the data, get the data into the systems and databases. But certainly with the advent of the new Crave technology since ChatGPT launched, and the adoption of that just went through the roof with effectively the first time the world's seen or being able to interact through a vibe code and language coding into an interface and actually get some pretty cool results from it. That just shows the world is looking for this next technology. But I think if we put our attention to that, and so we've got a question from Sean that also ties into this. But I guess starting with that, as we change in that world, do you see the CIO role shifting, from managing the systems to safeguarding really some of these human purpose agentic or other systems? And we can probably spend a little bit of time on the agentics, but firstly, let's get into the role of the CIOs across our industry.
Yeah. So my job title internally is actually the executive manager of transformation and digital. I'm called the CIO externally because that's what people understand and people know. But you can call me Craig, right? I don't actually care about the title. Doesn't really mean a great deal to me. What does, I suppose, drive me forward is the outcome. So I've always been outcomes driven. I've always been excited by the challenge, and transformation is, again, it's an overused term, and I think people people refer to digital transformation when really they're just talking about an IT project. And so we really need to understand, are you just talking about a project, or are you genuinely talking about transformation, a transformative
Shifts,
state?
yeah. Yep.
And if it is true transformation, right, it covers the main domains of, people, process, data, and technology.
Structures even, yeah.
It's everything, but it covers all of those dimensions, and so all those domains. And so if you're just working on technology, or you're just working on a project, or you're just working on a policy for your people, that's not transformation. It truly will change the state once you've completed pure transformation. And I suppose that's the thing that excites me. That's the thing that I've been very fortunate to lead at ACH Group and continue to lead. I described internally, we launched our platform, we call it Ecliptics. When we launched our platform, we celebrated, but we actually acknowledged that we were just at the start line. So all of the work that had got us to where we were was basically the warm-up. It's the training for that race. And so we're just fit to go now. But the race is about to start. So that's kind of been our approach. We've said we've got ourselves now with something that we can start to tailor, something that we can move forward with and give us a bit of an advantage and make it, I know Sean's made a comment there about about every admin minute into a care minute. And I truly believe that's what the platform is there to do. It's there to take away the tasks that people don't want to do, the repetitive tasks. And there's a lot of scaremongering that goes on around jobs will disappear. I don't think jobs will disappear, but every single job will change. Absolutely every single job will change. Yep. Because the tasks within that job will change, and you'll start to see more people progressing the tasks where the human is involved in adding value. If you're not adding value, let the AI do it. So I don't think the fear is. I think it's hype, to be honest. And I've said to a couple of people, right? Even if the worst comes to the worst, there'll be new jobs. I mean, I think I said this to you guys previously. That when was the last time you bumped into a blacksmith? So jobs will change. Jobs always change, but it wasn't the end of the world. So it's the same thing is going to happen in aged care. We will have new jobs that replace old jobs. They'll just be different.
100%.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to raise the roof for Sean Matthews. He's a mutual friend of ours, Craig, and he's jumped in with a few comments and questions. So thank you, Sean, and hopefully he does jump on the stream later in 6 minutes' time. So his first question he posed: with AI adoption accelerating, how will ACH Group balance automation and data analytics with the ACT's human-centric care principle?
Yeah, so we will automate as much as we can. We will get the information to the human, but there always has to be a human in the loop. Always is a human decision. Humans will be accountable for what happens. So we can provide information, and it will be up to the human to accept that information, because as we know, AI can hallucinate. It can give you the wrong information, but we should be able to, if it's quicker to gather that information and make a recommendation, then we should take advantage of that. It doesn't mean it's accurate. So there's always got to be a human involved. So in terms of how will we use it and how will we make sure, we'll make sure that we continue to have humans between the AI and the task that's performed.
Yep. And his next question being, what metrics or success indicators will ACH Group use in 2026 to assess whether digital transformation under the new Act has improved care quality and client experience?
I'm sure Sean already knows, there's no shortage of metrics which we're judged on. So really, we'll be judged on our performance and all that. I don't think digital transformation is new. I don't want to kind of pose it as if it's taking us to a new world. This is how we do what we do now. So it'll be exactly the same metrics, but the metrics will be better. And how did we make them better? We made them better because we could spend time training our staff more, focusing on the areas where we perhaps need to improve, as opposed to trying to do everything because it's all manual.
And that's a very good point. I think about the whole just measuring your starting point and that end goal. That's for organizations or individuals also listening. I guess you, my history of transformation in one of the big four, and sitting in teams where we had methodologies. But the first methodology I learned when I was a management consultant was called performance improvement through benefits management. But it was all about measuring everything and every outcome. And I think it's a very good point to to define, because you need those measures to see how far you've gone, but also where are you headed on this roadmap? And is it to the right? Is it to the left? And we need to correct, and that's really important of what the measurements are talking to. But I think AI, and I think we'll come back to, it's been one of the big topics I know, because as we look to really an industry that is a shortage of workforce, augmenting our time in ways that we can we change roles. And this has happened over the centuries. Without AI, like, we don't have typing pools of typists anymore, because that's all been replaced by personal computers. We don't have lamplighters walking around the streets, because now it's all LEDs controlled by grids of infrastructure and computers. So as we now think about AI in a I guess in a modern way in world, I think it's been heightened by a lot of the just the movie industry's view of it, which there's truth behind everything, but they are more entertaining sides of it. But I think what's getting to some of the questions on the AI is that, where do you see, and I guess immediately changes some of the day-to-day operations in aged care, just for those people that are probably asking that question amongst others. They want to know, like, where do they start? But I guess maybe even share with some of the ACH areas where you're starting.
So we, in terms of our AI journey, we've kind of we've done the basics, which I think a lot of organizations have done. So, we've taken our policies and procedures and we've made it easy to get access to the information people need when they need it. So that's generally the first step. Everybody seems to dip their toe into that, quiz and query your policies and your procedures and get that information much quicker than an individual searching through multiple files and multiple documents to try and get that information. So I think that's generally the first step. What we have been looking at is something that is less around the sprinkles on top AI and more about the built AI. What I mean by that is, you can't fail to use a product, even a legacy product, and see that now comes with AI. And it's basically just a little bit of, sprinkles on top. It's not really been re-engineered. It's just automating some reports or some prompts or some queries. It's just shortcuts, really.
It's a lot of time, and it's a lot of mundane tasks that I know are, some of our top quality RNs are doing.
Yeah. So we've kind of been looking at built AI. And what I mean by that is even looking at the architecture of how AI is implemented in our organization. So typically what everybody is doing is taking the data and they're implementing AI over the top, and they're trying to run this huge queries to generate, a seismic shift in operational efficiency. Whereas we want to harness the power of AI to improve the experience. And so we've kind of been looking at something called a digital advocate. And what I mean by a digital advocate is, can you remember when you went to the doctor's 3 years ago, exactly what he said to you and what he prescribed and the advice he gave you? You might, I don't.
Let me tell you my last appointment. No.
Yeah. But imagine if your AI could actually not only recall that, but every single visit, every single progress note. And so we want to do personal advocates or digital advocates for each individual person. And so the person has their own assistant, digital assistant, if you like, who can help us understand what's going on with that person. So if you're setting foot into the room for the first time and you want to get a summary of, that person's, what are the key things we need to observe or look out for, it will tell you before you go in, rather than having to kind of read lots and lots of notes, or even worse, do it in front of the person themselves, right? Nobody wants.
Is that similar to? Have you seen those pendants that people can wear? There's two that I know of: Claude AI and Limitless AI. It's you wear a pendant around your neck, and it's a little little device that clips here and basically records and then transcribes your conversation throughout the day, and then sends you a summary of of the day.
You can
Are you
track how you
referring to
lived
something like
every
that, or
day.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
we're in the early stages, right? So we haven't got any devices or anything like that. But what we do have is access to all of the information we currently have and what we use it for. And so we're using that to understand, well, what are the trends? What are the things we need to look at? And then you can overlay things like the standards, right? So what are the standards asking us to do? So, and compliance as well. So
Yeah.
imagine if you were a home manager of a residential aged care home, and you wanted to know which of your residents needed assistance today. You would ask, because the architecture is not only a series of individuals, the individuals talk to each other. So you can say, who do I need to do an updated care plan with today? Or who do I need to do an assessment? Or whose assessment is not up to date in my facility? And it will tell you who that is. And if you take it to the next level, you should be able to say, if I was to have someone come and inspect my facility, what would I fail on? And it will tell you. And so, anybody who has that information knows exactly where they need to put their attention. Hopefully you never get to that point, right? You have good practices, but what a great check to just prompt you. And we always talk about, we always talk about humans prompting AI, but what about AI prompting humans? So, Hey, by the way, did you do this? Hey, did you check that? Hey, it's not doing it for you, but it's making sure that you don't forget.
It's seeing risks that humans may miss. That's what it's also doing. It's pulling those patterns, the trends, the things that we would probably pay the top quality RNs out there that do this with HI today, human intelligence, but manually synthesizing, looking at wound charts and seeing, does this comply with the new policies and procedures? And that would just happen like that. Well, depends on your latency, but in that front,
I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and one of the fellow panelists said that in her organization, they'd stopped using the term artificial intelligence and started using augmented intelligence, because there always needs to be that human there. And that kind of resonated with me very, very much. We should stop using artificial, because it's not replacing.
You're exactly right. It's it's a combination, and a lot of times it's not even AI. It's other it could be machine learning. There's other methods of of insights that are bringing these outputs. And I think that's really interesting in the sense that as this evolves and we think about you mentioned human in the loop a couple of times, and for those listening that are, listening to some of these terms like hallucination and human in a loop and so forth, these are just references to the models and how they perform and whether or not they're actually staying on track. And if we refer to hallucination, it just means it starts grabbing other insights and learnings that aren't relevant. And that's why it's important we have what we call human in the loop to check the model at all times. But it is a augmenting process, and it's just helping us scale our efficiency and really achieving that higher, reducing the cost to serve and scaling your operations through technology, which is really what the goal is with all of this, so we can return more time to our residents and families that care for. But I guess there's a balancing act in all of this too. So I guess that's why I wanted to also take this as there's that concern of AI replacing people. What's your view on the balance between automation and really human care? Because I think that's what our industry is struggling with at the moment, is seeing what that looks like.
I think humans want connection, and so we shouldn't replace connection. We shouldn't replace care. We shouldn't substitute care with automation. So I think the two are very different. I think automation allows you to deliver more care, more in-person care. And so again, it's about how you're adopting. If you're we won't be looking to replace roles. We will be looking to replace tasks. And those are the tasks where we add no value. The human has to do it because we need the information, but we're not adding value to any interaction with another human. And so if there is no value added in that interaction, let's automate that so that we can free up time to have those good conversations and get a deeper level of knowing with our customers and residents and clients and participants and the whole network. Let's get more time available to get a better understanding of what's required and then tackle that. as opposed to just filling in forms, ticking the boxes, the data entry. Yeah. It's funny though, because there was when I was on the panel, there was a comment raised from the audience, which kind of was interesting, and they said, "But don't you think people want to do that work? Don't you think that they want a break from delivering care? And sometimes they want to be able to get away from it." And that's true. I mean, I get that. I can see that, you can't do care because it takes it out of you, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
But my response to that was, well, it actually frees up time to do more training, more learning, more ability to do what you do. It doesn't necessarily say do more, but do what you do better. Because you know much more about the individual. So, spend time understanding the individual so that interaction is actually more valuable than if not. So.
And I would, I mean, I agree 100% with that statement, because I know those comments, and I think you can ask any PCW, personal care worker, RN out there. They stay after their shift ends. They stay a half hour because they got to get their notes in, and let's say they're not as competent as a typer. So imagine just all that goes away. Like, that's what we're talking about. It's like, why wouldn't you want to go home early, to your family and not have to stay, after just to get notes in, but, or, tackle some of this administrative outcomes. And the world is only going to get more and more complex with the reporting that providers having to do, and the tracking and extended quality indicators. And then this is the basis of InterRAI too, which we can kind of play into as well with your views on having that. But I mean, we have so much variation, and I do feel for a lot of the RNs and the clinical teams that are out there, because I mean, we've added, to this industry so many layers of different little, feature products and modules and other third-party items, which I'm sure you're culling and trying to really, work out in your platform strategy and play as to what's, what can be done, better, but centrally with more control and visibility over that. But I guess, in that element, as we, move ahead, if you were, I guess, to redesign this industry today from the ground up, I mean, what would you change? If you just, could really start from the ground up, where would you go with your strategy from what you've said? Or you may even say, I'll still take the same approach, Rob. But
And just before you jump into that answer, after your answer, we're going to have Sean Matthews jumping on stage with us. He's going to give his commentary and insight. Raising the roof for Sean. Thanks, Sean.
Bring on Sean.
We'll bring him onto the stage soon.
Cool. So there's a couple of ways to answer that.
Magic
there's
wand
one which is I'll pick one, and that's probably the most out there one. If you think about how much the government spends on technology across hundreds of providers, because let's face it, they're funding my technology is being funded by the government indirectly. Because we have to work out the efficiency within our operation to then fund our technology stack and our plans and aspirations. What we do is exactly the same. How we do it differs. And so what we do, there is no competitive advantage, and there should be a single platform. And we should have designed a single platform as a nation to deal with aged care. That's my, rip it up.
You can't even get one resident agreement standardized in a country, It's like, how many more contracts do we need to bring to families just so they can enter permanent care?
But it would be exactly the same. It would be a universal system with a universal statement and a universal set of rules. And really the differentiation would be care. And that's really the industry we're in, isn't it? Care, not technology. I know I sound like I'm voting myself out of a job here, but
not at all. I mean, that's my vision too for just to better healthcare. I mean, whether it's our system or the industry does need that, and I think also government needs it too, because they want to see more. They want more transparency, and they're now they're requiring you to report all of these items out of all of your setup and systems, and then the next group over here has to do the same but in a different approach, and you just multiply that times 700 groups, and home care is only even more challenging with the just the disparity of the different systems in that front. But I think it'd be good to bring Craig out now because we can expand on this because this is really about
Sean.
some
Sean
of the
is
future.
we're waiting for Sean to jump back on while we wait.
Oh,
for
sorry,
him.
Sean was here.
I think he's figuring it out. Craig, I want to ask, and Rob, you could probably answer this too. But you guys, looking at your backgrounds, you wouldn't be out of place in a place like Silicon Valley. But we've managed to enlist your skills in aged care. To those out there in your industry with your background, your skill sets, do you feel like you've missed out on anything? And because I want to show people that aged care is exciting. You can learn a lot. You can get into your hands, into a lot of different areas of technology. But how do we attract more people with your backgrounds and say aged care is a place you can innovate?
Craig, do you want to take it first?
For me, it's I've been here 7 years and I'm just scratching the surface. So for someone who is driven by challenge and transformation to still be here 7 years just shows the size of the opportunity and the size of the just the massive amount of exciting things that you can get involved in. Because I know people don't really nobody leaves university wanting to join the aged care industry. It's just a fact of life, right? So we all stumble into the aged care industry. But once you're here, once you understand the purpose and the reason and the good that we actually deliver, then there's not many industries where you can get that same sense of satisfaction. And so, I mean, in the intro, I've worked in banking. That was good for the bank account, but not good for the soul. And so, I think what I'm finding is people who want to give back, people who want to accept the challenge and are driven by the impossible, they will find their way into aged care and stay.
Yeah. And Rob, we'll get you to weigh in on that later, but I want to get Sean on stage. Hey, Sean, welcome to the stage. Could you give yourself a little intro and ask questions to Rob or Craig, or if you have to, you can ask me a question.
No, I just wanted to add that Craig and I have had discussions around how you convert the admin side of things to care, to quality care, and I think AI is if you're going to use AI, it's about making all those tasks that are low value, not really going to contribute to the quality of care, utilising that. And what I really like about what Craig said too was about the augmented intelligence rather than saying it's AI. I think the language needs to change, and I think because people just flippantly use AI as it's a way of life, but it's actually just it's a terminology we throw out there and we go, this is what's going to happen, but we've really got to change the language and what we're doing. So I really don't have anything further to add other than to say that I agree with the way that AI is impacting. I think the other thing too is around governance and the ability to upload information so that people that are doing that and labour costs that are involved with uploading documentation and everything else, that becomes part of the program. And then how does that just be deciphered into a compliance dashboard so that there's ability to identify, like the CEOs and CFOs and the main executives in the organisation get to see in advance what's happening in the future before it becomes a problem, rather than, hey, we're reacting to things that are happening in the past, but we're not seeing what's coming. It's like the train that's coming through the tunnel. You only see the lights and then bang, you're gone. So
there's something there.
I'm thinking, along those lines, that, that's where I really see the introduction of this technology and what they're doing. And Craig's been a leader in that field. So I really don't have anything more to add because he answered a lot.
Do you want to give a plug to your organization? What problems you guys are tackling?
Well, look, there's been I've had a change, so I really I don't want to go into what I'm now working with a company based in Denmark that are producing dashboards around compliance. They are part of the Big Four, So Ernst Young, Deloitte's, and PwC. So they've got this database platform that I'll talk about, and I can send Craig some details because I'd like to get his feedback on it, see how it would work.
Cool.
No, it's
That's
important
awesome.
because I mean those are the things that really is bringing to light the risks and the hard work that the AI or the technology is doing, like looking for all the risks, as Craig was alluding to earlier about where am I non-compliant with this standard, and just up comes everything that is effectively mapped to that. So that's our future. It's not too far away.
It was interesting today. I was having meetings at Adelaide University with the Australian Institute of Machine Learning, and really interesting stuff when you go and talk to the guys that they've got great technology, and there's no doubt. But their problem is that I ask them every time, what's the problem we're solving? And sometimes they don't know what the problem's solving. They think they've got the technology and it's all fantastic. But it's about how do you implement that, and how do you work with clients like ACH or other aged care providers and say, well, I've got this, but I want you to have a look at it and see if it works, if we can make this system work for you, rather than, hey, I'm going to see you this program. It's the bee's knees. It's going to solve all these problems. But there's really no co-design. And so I get a lot of technology companies coming to me all the time saying, how do I sell better to aged care? But it's not about how do you sell to aged care. It's how do you co-design and work with aged care.
How do you understand their problems? Yeah, so
exactly
listen, vendors out there, that's a very good point. And Craig, you touched on that earlier as well. I mean, it's so important that there's a strong relationship with the vendor and that provider in this industry specifically. Just do the nuances there. So it's
So Sean, hopefully you successfully pitched that to Craig off the show later on. But keen to have you come back every week and pitch yourself to our next guest. So, but thank you so much for jumping on. We're going to welcome Lo.
Thanks.
Raising the roof for you.
And Sean, if you don't pitch it, I'm going to pitch it. All right. So you make sure you get it correct.
Yes. Thanks, Sean.
All right, welcoming to the stage, friendly face of the show, Lo Croiset. Sorry, Lo, I never get your surname right. Croiset. How do we say it?
You're good. Croiset.
Yes.
Croiset.
Yeah, we're raising the roof.
Hey,
Hello.
How are you guys? Been a little while. How you been? All those smiling faces. I love it.
How are
Did,
things? Happy.
Did you tune in
Lo?
before? Do you have any comments or questions for Craig or anyone else for that matter?
No, I sort of jumped onto these very last minute, so I have zero context of what's going on. I do apologize.
That's cool.
We love the hot
hello.
seat.
Here
We
anyway.
put you in the hot seat
Hello,
right
Craig.
away, Ant.
We love that. So what are you feeling, Lo, in terms of the big issues this week? We're screaming towards November 1. What's big for you guys right now, top of mind?
Well, on a technical side of things, we're getting a lot of our provider. We're a brokerage or an associated provider. So we're getting a lot of messaging from our registered providers about invoicing and making sure that the systems are up to date. And I was talking to a peer a couple of weeks ago from a registered provider. She's one of the compliance managers there. And we were discussing how individual clients will be able to negotiate their individual contracts and pricing, and how that would look in a system for registered provider and what that will involve, but also whether or not, the clients will, or the older people will actually know that they have that right to do that.
Yeah.
And even if they do have that right, then the next layer is, will they do it? Will they do it because they're confident to do it? Will they not do it because they're just too scared or they don't want to be a burden or a problem? And so you've got then all the impacts and all the little things that will come with that as well. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. I'm worried for a few of our registered providers and our partnerships. And that's something I'm closely watching at the moment. What do you guys think?
That's really interesting. I mean, I think that's a really good point of how specific the knowledge of the policy and then that change will have on the impact of the behavior, the experience, the UX, even the design that we have to think about as a vendor to account for a process that really looks after, speaking of a vendor, the client outcome first. The client is the provider in this situation. So we want to make sure that the process flow and that experience leads to the best outcome that you would want to give as an organization to that consumer. And that's where the balance too comes in with is it financial? Is it, Craig would say, well, computer says no in the old, some of the old side, but I think it's important, it goes back to that co-design side, to really understand then what is then the pain point of that outcome, and then what is good look like. And if good looks like, showing the options, and that's where the feedback is so important, because you can't just think about this as an engineer and just code it into a interface.
No.
And there you go. There's a lot of that understanding and psychology, and I think the companies like LinkedIn and even the big social medias, they've nailed that. They've nailed the experience and the reward, and there's all these elements that has to go into that. But it starts with that: what is the outcome? What does good look like for that user or that organization who is then a client of the vendor?
So have you been involved in that intersect before, Craig? I know you're working with ACH. You've got a home care side to your business as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're aiming to be compliant, but being compliant doesn't mean people will want it or use it. So it's really about, what
There's a conundrum.
Until the 1st of November, we don't know what the consequence will be and the impact of what's been built. So it really is going into the, cross your fingers, close your eyes, and hope for the best. Because until we actually get there, we don't know
what else sing into the unknown.
There you go. So it's that easy, Lo. That's the good news.
Yeah. So that's my advice. Just close your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Just visualize what you want to see as an ideal
Just
outcome.
get to November 2, you'll be fine.
Yeah. That's right.
Hopefully.
This is more interesting than Y2K, man. I remember
Is there some guiding principles that you would steer Lo in the direction of to better understand her providers and in this, Craig? So I know you like you're a transformation guy, and you like to see what are the real problems that need solving.
I think it's really difficult, to be honest, because I haven't got a crystal ball, so I can't tell you what the problems are going to be. And because of that, all I can really offer in terms of advice is stay close to the providers, check in with them, and get on top of the issues or the trends that you're seeing as quickly as possible, because there will be issues. There always are, and it's really about how we recover from that. And let's not beat ourselves up. That's the other thing. It's one of the things is there is no failure here. There's just degrees of success. And so by getting to the 1st of November, we've all done really well. Some will do better than others, but it's really about how quickly we recover. And again, it's degrees of success, not failure.
And I think to speak to
I think that was really beautifully said.
And I like that too.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'll sell some T-shirts after.
I'll take one.
And we also, Lo, you successfully proved how not to do things. So you're not failing. You just successfully proved how not to do it.
But I think
exactly. And
go.
I think we sit in a good position because we kind of see everything unfolding. But generally what I've heard from many of my peers is that the government and even providers will be spending the next kind of 9 months just doing a lot of evaluation and review and documenting a lot of the data, which I think would be really good. Come July 1 in 2026, hopefully the government will have loads of documentation and information that they can analyze and say, okay, we need to change this, we need to tweak that, this is definitely not working, this is somewhat working. But I do hope that the older people are taken on this journey, because this is for them. And I just saw actually someone, Coral Wilkinson, who just posted on LinkedIn, and it was her daughter-in-law's mother-in-law who received a letter from Services Australia about the upcoming changes, and she was so worried and she was panicking, and Coral took time and like read the letter and said, no, you're good, everything's fine, it's actually not changing for you, you're grandfathered. But she needed that reassurance several times over in that one conversation. And how lucky is she that she had and knows someone in aged care to be able to help her with that. And I imagine there's a lot of older people who maybe aren't in such a lucky position that are either reading their documentation and just don't know what to do with it.
That's our family joke as well.
There is one thing
discussion that aged care has around us with the knowledge of it, and married on the street and whoever. But it is part of it too. But I think also to your technology point, you have to also remember the Safety Quality Commission, the Department of Health, even Service Australia. They're all on the same journey as us too. So they're building this aircraft as we're
true. That's very true.
And they're not, they don't get it right too. I mean, we identified their star rating algorithm was assigning the wrong, outcomes, and a couple of years back. So I mean, little nuances are always going to come out and share of it. But it's also, I mean, they're on that same journey, and also your vendors are too. So just to sympathize when some of the vendors, we're also transforming. And more us because we only really focus on the Australian residential sector, so we are really living and breathing this force of nature by government policy change.
One area, I'm not sure if we covered it because I dropped out in my mobile office, which said it. I had signal, but I didn't. So, Craig, did we cover the power of change management in a transformation process? How you align your people and get the culture meet systems. Is there anything you'd like to share? Because you've done a lot of project work, some takeaways for people that are navigating this?
Yeah, no, we didn't. We kind of covered the people domain as part of transformation, but the thing I always say is that's the most difficult. I can give you the best technology in the world and people choose not to use it. It's the one thing you're not going to be able to, you can change your processes, you can clean your data, you can have the best technology and people still refuse to use it or not find it useful. So I would say don't underestimate your people capability and your need for change management. And it's usually the first thing that projects cut is that's a nice to have. I would say start with your change budget first and then build around that.
I love that.
I would agree with that. I think that's so important, that piece. You need to look after your people, and especially, why wouldn't you in a people-centered industry? Like, that's just role modeling and echoing exactly what you need to do for your clients.
Exactly.
Well,
good note
Craig,
to end
thank
on,
you so much for being on the show. Thanks for being the special guest. Lo, love to see you as always. Raising the roof.
We're raising the roof for Craig and for Lo.
Jumping on. And we're gonna try it. You wanna sign us off, Owen?
Absolutely. We are the Three Musketeers, and it's all for one and one for all.
One for all things
aged
care. Well, our timing is getting better, but all right. See you guys.
Thank you.
See you. Thanks for having me.